That's good coffee. Hey, good morning. Welcome to another episode from the Quarantine Management Institute. I'm Professor Chris McCusker. At the Quarantine Management Institute, we are learning to learn in new ways together. In our last episode, Insomnia, we covered the notion of information overload. There's just too much information to process in the world. And the idea that we're cognitive misers, we don't like to spend more mental resources than we have to. And so therefore, as cognitive misers suffering from information overload, we are going to rely on shortcuts, which are known as cognitive heuristics. Today we're talking about a very important shortcut, a very important example of cognitive heuristics that concerns how we process information about culture and cultural differences. And that is the cultural stereotype. We can have fun with cultural stereotypes. It's a group-level characterization that talks about an attribute of a group. The Germans are really organized. The French are great cooks. It's maybe fun sometimes. Maybe insulting sometimes, but it's just plain wrong to rely on cultural stereotypes, even though it helps us cope with information overload and being cognitive misers. It's wrong because it violates an important maxim. I'm going to tell you what that maxim is and where I learned about it. The maxim is respect for the individual. And I learned about this from Bob Galvin, who is the former chairman and CEO of Motorola. A colleague of mine, Jim Fills, and I went to Motorola, where we met with a senior team, Bob Galvin, Chris Galvin, Pat Canavan. We studied the company, and we learned that they were all over the world, one of the first truly global corporations. They were really the first major corporation into China. We'll talk more about their experiences in China and how they were able to do that. And one of the things Bob emphasized loud and clear was that at Motorola, we make sure that our people operate under the understanding that we respect each and every individual. We don't rely on stereotypes. The reason I'm talking about this is culture is a very fuzzy concept. It's a difficult concept to understand, and it's sometimes tempting to use stereotypes. We have to resist this temptation. We're compelled to do so because of the information overload in the world, and we're cognitive misers. Do we really have to think about everything so much? And it's a mental shortcut or cognitive heuristic that helps us cope at some way, but it's just wrong. I've been hearing a lot of talk. I've been hearing some talk about the Chinese. It disturbs me. It disturbs me on a couple levels. Number one, it doesn't show respect for the individual. And China, of course, has been in the news a lot lately because of the discussions of the COVID-19 pandemic. And what's happening in China is very important because it helps us understand what might happen elsewhere. I've had such beautiful experiences in China and with Chinese students that I can tell you it's impossible to characterize all of the Chinese, the 1.3 billion, 1.4 billion, however many there are. We're talking about more than 1 billion people. What can we say about more than 1 billion people? Not much. So when it comes to managing culture, one of the first things we got to do is stop relying on cultural stereotypes. We should not be allowed to say the Chinese. It doesn't make any sense, and it can be quite insulting. And it simply violates a very important maxim when it comes to managing culture, which is respect for the individual. Thank you.